live. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another Great Minds Drink Alike podcast, where I invite brilliant people like my good friend, Mr. Chris Voss, who's here with us today, entrepreneurs, marketers, all around cool people to join me in a universal quest to become the best version of ourselves and do it while having a drink. So, why not? That's why we have these on Fridays. That's why we, after a long week and as entrepreneurs, as high performance individuals, maybe you're not an entrepreneur, but you're in sales, you're marketing, you're a leader, after the end of the week, you kind of want to look back and learn something and end it on a high. And that's why we do this. So as usual, go to the comments section right now. Let me know where you are in this great big world of mine. I'm kind of looking over here on my comments, right? Tell me what you're drinking. Tell me what you're drinking. It's so cliche, but I had to do it. I'm drinking a bottle of The Prisoner, which I know is the Black Swan's. I think, is that your signature drink? Is that your official, or?
I think it's the unofficial wine of the Black Swan Group.
Had to do it. Always got a bottle on hand. It's funny because I gave Jeff Johnson that as a gift one time. For like an anniversary gift, of employment anniversary gift, and he thought that was kind of appropriate, as a prisoner for being here 10 years or whatever. Anyway, so while you're there, make sure you find the buttons to subscribe to the podcast. That way, you can get notified every time we have one of these. Use the comments to tell us what you're drinking. Tell us, what's going on out there, what you think of. And of course, tell us, communicate with us what questions you have for Chris. And so, welcome, Chris. What are you drinking, by the way? So I'm drinking The Prisoner. What do you got?
Well, I'm afraid I'll be drinking The Prisoner later, but as of right now, I got, and of course I drink it out of a Voss water bottle.
Okay, that's like my favorite water too. So there's something there about that. I think it's the name. It's definitely the name.
Something about the name. I don't know what it is.
It's a very cool name. So and Mike, what are you drinking now? Because last time we got together, you guys drinking like peach wine or some very effeminate type drink. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
With an umbrella.
Yeah. No, I've got a little Bellmead bourbon here. So
okay.
I was thinking though, Robin, that wine that you gave Jeff. It could have been worse. You could have given him that cheap stuff, Menage a Trois. Don't know what he would have thought then.
So. I am not giving any one of my employees Menage a Trois, particularly Jeff Johnson. All right, that's just that's a little weird. So let me do this. I have your bio. I'm just going to read part of it because you've got a long list of just accomplishments and successes in your background, but my audience knows who you are, Chris. I reference you all the time. I think you're like one of the most the smartest and most genuine people I know. I always give you a lot of credit for things that I get right. I always say, hey, we Vossed them, or something like that. It's a verb in my organization, Voss them, that sort of thing. So but just so those rare individuals who might not know who you are, Chris Voss is the CEO and founder of the Black Swan Group, and it's this is me putting this in here. I think it's the single best coaching program in the world, full stop, not even a question, about sales and negotiations training. He's the author of Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depends on It. And prior to 2008, Chris was the lead international kidnapping negotiator for the FBI, as well as the FBI's hostage negotiation representative for the National Security Council's hostage working group. And prior to becoming the FBI's lead international kidnap negotiator, he served as the lead crisis negotiator for the New York City division of the FBI. He was also a member of the New York City Joint Terrorist Task Force for 14 years. And in your 24-year tenure at the Bureau, you were trained in the art of negotiation, not only by the FBI, but Scotland Yard, which is really cool, right? Just Scotland Yard, I don't even know anything about it other than just Scotland Yard. You just say that, and it's just, anyway, Harvard Business School. You see, I'm already started drinking, we're already off to the races here. Harvard Law School. He's the recipient of the Attorney General's Award for Excellence in Law Enforcement and the FBI's Agents Association Award for Distinguished and Exemplary Service. And like I said, in my humble opinion, I mean, who the hell am I? I'm definitely not from Scotland Yard. But just really, I have learned more from you, sir, than I can, like, I have a ton of books sitting here, like all of them put together. So I am super excited that you even agreed to have this interview with me.
You're very kind. Thank you. You're very kind. I appreciate it. I appreciate your friendship. I'm glad we're friends.
Yes, I mean, absolutely. So I want to, I want to kind of like, there's so much I could ask you. I know I've interviewed you before. I've had you like 3 times now talk to my clients. We did one, training class and so forth. So, one of the things I was thinking about, I was listening to some of your interviews, and I'm trying to figure out, what is it that you really teach people to do? Because you can say negotiations, right? Which is people get in their head like, well, I got to get a deal, I got to close a deal, or I got to get one over on the other guy. And that's really not what you're in your opinion, what do you think you really teach people?
Yeah, well, I mean, how do I say this without make it sound like it's jargon? There's so much waste, eliminating wasted communication. There's so much wasted communication. Like, you don't even have to make deals. If you just didn't say things that wasted time, then you would make a lot more money, because, you get compensated for your time one way or another. And the less time you waste, the more money you make. And so, how do you get somebody to a decision, an easier decision quicker? Like, I was in a negotiation earlier today, and I wanted him to raise the offer. And I just said, look, I'm not, this isn't going to kill the deal. I think that we want to move forward. You've been a great business partner. And I know I'm going to sound ungrateful, but the offer's light. And, I don't want anybody to feel like I'm backing you into a corner over this, because I'm sure it seems very ungrateful. So if they're going to raise the offer, whether they do or not, I don't want them to feel forced into it, because it's going to interfere in the deal. Anybody that gets pushed into a deal, then it costs money downstream. And so it's a good relationship, and it's a good partnership anyway. There's a lot of value to be gained. And I wanted more. I'd hoped for more, but simultaneously, I know how I ask for it is the possibility of creating a lot of problems. And so, and wasted time. If it creates problems, it's going to be wasted time. So I want the rep I was talking to be able to go back and express dissatisfaction on my part without creating hard feelings. Right. And that's really just about, so we don't waste time. Yeah. We're going to make the deal. We're going to work it out. And I want everybody to be happy. And then if they're happy, they implement the hell out of the deal, and everybody does well. Right.
Mike, what do you think? And I'm curious out there, if you're listening, I'll glance over here at the chat and stuff. I'd like to know, if you're listening out there, what do you think Chris really does? Like, Mike, what do you think? I have an opinion. I want to hear what everyone else thinks though first.
I mean, I guess it's an interesting question, but I mean, it's communicating. I mean, in some ways, it's a lot like marketing, because it's effective communication to reach a result that you're looking for there. And I mean, marketing too, done right, that's a win-win for both parties with it, as long as you're selling an ethical product and have an outcome that suits everybody.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else we did today, just, maximizing how the brain works. Like, we got another project, Nick Nanton, Nick, right? Do you know Nick?
Yeah. Yeah.
He just did a documentary on the company, Tactical Empathy. And so we're gonna show it in LA in September. But we're a little bit behind the curve on getting ready and get some stuff done. And I know that Nick's team is just like overwhelmed. And so I was talking to my team today, and they said, okay, well, we'll call them, we'll ask them questions. What do they want to do? Do they want to do this? And I said, no. Not going to ask them any questions. We're going to say, this is what we're going to do. And then let them correct us. Because if you ask somebody what they want to do, or do you want to do something, you got to stop and think. And it takes time. And if you're tired, you can't come up with a good answer.
Mhm.
But if somebody wants to do something that you don't want them to do, you immediately go, no, don't do that, do this.
So smart.
And
Yeah.
so I'm like, all right, so we know we're dealing with people that are overwhelmed. We can't ask them if they want to do something. We say, we're gonna do this unless you tell us otherwise. And I just know from the way the brain works, for people that work with me, like if I'm exhausted and they say, what do you want me to do? I go, I don't know, leave me alone. But if they say, gonna do this, if it's right, I'm like, perfect, golden, or no, don't do this, do that. And then we move forward immediately.
Right. It's kind of like asking someone, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? And they go, I don't know. And it's like, if you say, but if I say to you, hey, do you want to go to Bourbon Steak tonight? Nah, I don't want to do that. And then they'll say, oh, I want to go someplace local, or and then all of a sudden it's so smart. That's
Yeah.
right. And then I would follow it. Let me tell you what I propose. What about this doesn't work for you? To use your no-oriented.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Just help understand how people think. And of course, there's, just like Mike said, there's a certain presumption, that you're ethical and that you got a good product.
Mhm.
And so now doing all that, let's make this happen as quick as we can so that everybody benefits.
Yeah. See, I think, I really have given this a lot of thought. I think what you really teach people is how to be more strategic in not just in their dealings with people, but their business overall, right? Because running a business is about dealing with people. That's it, period. Whether it's a customer, a vendor, an employee, everything in business, you are negotiating or trying to get information from, or trying to get performance from, or trying to get the truth from somebody, a person, right? I mean, so every interaction with a human being is, if you want to say it, is a negotiation of some kind, right? They might not be telling you what you need to hear. They're withholding information. They might be giving you a counterfeit yes to you, and that's a dangerous thing, right? Because you can't have a counterfeit yes. What I really think you do is you teach people how to be a lot more strategic in conversations, which again saves time. To your point, it saves time. But like one of the quotes that you have, and I'm not going to say it exactly right because but it's never be so sure of what you want that you won't accept something better, or be open to get. I think is that right? Is that your?
Yeah, no, you got it right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think what you do is, I think people get very hung up on what they want, what their agenda is, and they never really, and they're so, like, even in sales, people are so uptight, got to close the sale. And I'm going to sell them this thing that I got to sell them this thing because this is what's on my basket. This is on my wagon here. I got to sell. Like they close down, and they really don't have a good productive communication where there could be far more. So talk about that a little bit. Talk about that quote. Never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't accept something better.
Yeah, well, I mean, to start with, the hard thing for people to wrap their minds around is there's always something better.
Mm-hmm.
There's never not a time. And so how can I say that? Well, in any given deal, you're holding back information. There's stuff that's important that if you were to reveal it, it would affect the entire outcome of the deal. Now, if you could completely trust the other side with that information, you probably reveal it because it could affect the entire outcome of the deal. There's never a case when you have to make a deal, what your budget is, sort of pressures you're under. There's never a time that's not part of it. So if there's never a time that's not part of it, it's also true for the other side. So both sides in any given negotiation are by definition holding back important pieces of information, which means since you're lacking not just information, but important information, it's not possible to know the best outcome.
Right.
It's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of people that have a lot of experience in deals, it is what it is, will try to convince themselves emotionally that that's not the case, but there's always a better deal that's possible. Now, so if you completely fix that you figured everything out because you know everything, then you're going to miss those opportunities, or you're not going to slow down just enough to maybe trigger somebody saying something accidentally or something they think is innocuous. So there's always a better deal, always.
Right.
And the more fixed people are on what they want, the more likely they are to miss it.
Right. And I think when the questions like in the book, Never Split the Difference, I mean, and in the training you've done, a lot of it is asking those, I don't want to just say open-ended questions, but more how and inquisitive, getting them to talk, getting them to think through. And I think an important distinction, because again, I know a lot of the people on here, I see Adam Pittman's great guy. Love Adam. Hey, Adam. He said, he's been able to focus on empathy much more than ever before, and it's helped diffuse issues and create harmonious outcomes. And I think, part of, again, what you're doing when what you teach in the book is you're coaching some people, like you say, that everybody's withholding information, right? But here's what I would add to that. Maybe you disagree, is I don't think they know they're withholding information all the time, right? In other words, like, I think sometimes they haven't thought things through all the way. And they're saying yes to something, or they're going down a path, or they're certain this is the way, and they haven't really thought it through. And if you can come in as the salesperson, as the negotiator, and ask them that you get them to think it through better, which then produces a better outcome.
100%. And it's more likely that they haven't thought things through than anything else. I mean, that's probably the much bigger problem. People are hoping, or somebody on their side is hoping, or somebody has a misconception, and not enough thinking it all the way through, which then creates problems. I agree completely.
Yeah. So I think, again, like, so let me ask you this on that, going down that vein, talk about, because again, I know a lot of people here are, I see Paul Tracy out there, I see a bunch of clients, they're familiar with your work. When you're talking, like when you're sitting down to opening up any negotiation, and let's use something that, like, not just ordering a cup of coffee, but let's say you're literally sitting down across from an employee that you're about to hire, or you're sitting across from a potential customer, or you're sitting across the table with a current customer. What are some of the, in your mind, what's always like the first thing you need to understand? What are some questions and things that you would approach with that, hey, we got to get, this is the opening to kind of to open the floodgates, if you will?
Well, I'm mostly just trying to see if I can, connect. Because, and even more so now, you mentioned employee, sitting down with a potential employee. I want to connect because, we taught forever in all business negotiations, focus on implementation, which is really, how's this going to go bad? How are we going to know it's going bad? How are we going to fix it if it does? Most of the time, something's going to go wrong. And if you don't also address how you're going to fix it, then it starts going wrong, and it really accumulates, and it gets downhill, and it's almost unfixable because people are hoping that it fixes itself. There's a lot of hope involved in fixing problems. Now, when I start talking to people that we're going to hire, I'm like, look, here's how this is going to go bad with me. Here's how we're going to run into trouble. And one person I just hired, I said, we're going to have a difference of opinion at some point in time. What are we going to do? Now, I know what the answer to that is. When it's a neutral question, then the automatic answer for the person I'm getting ready to hire is they're going to say, well, you're the boss, so you got the last word. But people only say that and when you're in the middle of the problem and everybody thinks they're right, then the other person is saying, like, I don't care if you're the boss, I'm right. And then you get bent out of shape by not anticipating that. So now, as much business deals, any kind of deal, the real issue is, if we run into trouble, how are we going to know? And let's talk now about how we're going to fix it, so that when we get there, it's going to be that much easier to fix it because we already talked about it.
So, but when you're first sitting down, though, do you are you trying to get, like, sort of tell me what you're trying to accomplish. Like, are you like, but then we get down to how is this thing, once we agree to here's the vision that we both agree on, that's good for them, that's good for us. We have this, I mean, are you trying to create a vision first and then you whittle away at here's how this could go off track?
No, and why do I want to connect? Because I want to know whether or not I want to be in a long-term relationship with these people.
Mhm.
I mean, and that's really what it is. Am I going to be able to live with you, or are you going to be able to live with me? We could probably work pretty much everything out, but if we've got some fundamental differences in core values, and I think that instinctively why I want to connect, is this a person that I want to become friends with the people I do business with? The inverse is a problem. You shouldn't do business with people that you're already friends with. But if you can't become friends with a person you're doing business with, you probably shouldn't do business with them because your core values don't match. And so I'm really going to want to get a feel of you and your organization. If you start joking about people that, we had these people over a barrel, or, we did this deal and they didn't know what they were getting into and we made so much money, I'm gonna kid around with you, because if you start joking about that kind of stuff where, people that dealt with you, at their expense, I'm like, nah, this ain't gonna work out. So I'm really gonna want to connect, because I need to know whether or not there's an alignment of values, because our intention is whoever we do business with, it's a long-term relationship and we love it.
Mhm. Okay, so
So
how do you
I'm looking for who they are.
So
What's that?
when you sit down, like like if you sit down, you sat next to someone in a bar, you're in like, what are some of the ways you get someone to start opening up about themselves?
Oh, wow. I'll probably tease them. I'll probably tease them a little bit. I'll joke around, self-effacing humor, let somebody know that you got a sense of humor about yourself.
Mhm.
You let somebody know you got a sense of humor about yourself. You try to get somebody to laugh with you, you're going to know right away whether or not they're laughing with you, or whether or not they're laughing at you.
Mhm.
And you make some sort of crack about yourself, and you can tell from the tone of their laugh, it's derisive. Like, yeah, this ain't a person. They want to laugh at my expense. Maybe they want me to make, if I make mistakes, it's going to be at my expense. Everything's going to be at my expense.
Mhm.
So if I'm joking around, I may make a comment like out of the blue. I'm sitting at I'll give you one of my favorite ones. Pink shirts. 8 out of 10 times,
Okay.
not every time, but a lot, a man wearing a pink shirt went to business school someplace. And you see a man in a pink shirt and you go, I'm sitting at one of my favorite bars in DC, and it's not that many people there, steakhouse. I look down, this dude sitting down about 4 seats down from me. He's got a nice jacket. He's got a pink shirt on. So I go, where'd you go to business school? That is the only thing I said to him. He's sitting there minding his own business.
Mhm.
And he kind of looks
Yeah.
around and goes, and then he goes, University of Denver. How'd you know? And I go, because you got on a pink shirt.
What do you say to that?
He was like, he was just blown away that his pink shirt was a giveaway. And then young lady behind the bar, bartender, she's like, stop picking on him. Be nice to him. Don't be mean. But any man I see in a pink shirt, I'm not going to introduce myself. I'm going to say, where'd you go to business school? Because it's a lot of fun to watch them try to figure out what in God's name was the giveaway.
Now this is funny. Do you know Dave Rendell?
I don't.
Oh, okay. Because he's so Dave Rendell is he's a brilliant speaker, author. We've had him MC a couple of our events, like, and he does training, like speaker training for a lot of our clients. So he's kind of in the family, and he wears pink from head to toe. So as soon as you're saying that, I'm thinking like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like laughing here because I'm thinking, so what would you say if you saw a dude that was dressed and he's tall? Like, how big is he, Mike? He's like
like 6'5", 6'6",
Yeah,
somewhere in
he's a
there. Big
giant.
dude.
Yeah, and he wears pink from head to toe. So like if you saw a dude that was like 6'5", 7 feet tall or something, and was dressed in pink from head to toe, would you still ask him where'd you go to business school, or would you like,
No, I'd make some other kind of crack to, to see, because like this, I'd say, what is this, a cry for help? What's going on here?
He's a great
It
guy.
might be. It might be.
It might be.
Yeah. That sounds maybe accurate.
Yeah, he's got a whole story behind it. You have to.
Yeah, so, stop the dude and go like blink twice if you need help.
Yeah, right.
Something.
Oh man, that's so funny. So okay, so where were we? So we're talking about like, opening the question, like asking people questions. Like what would you say are some of your favorite questions to ask somebody, whether it's in a negotiation, you're opening a conversation? I mean, do you have some favorite go-tos that you use all the time?
Yeah, well, and so I put a fine point on it too, because if I'm really looking for information for people, we don't ask questions per se. I mean, we're gonna put it in a form of a label.
Mhm.
There's just labeling and we even call it sometimes asking labels. Labeling to get information out of people is at least 10 times more effective than asking questions at a bare minimum. I mean, they're just so, and I can't explain the neuroscience of it. I just know it from experiencing it, and I know it from using it constantly. And an example, experiencing it. I'm coming home a couple months ago. I'm jet lagged. I think we're coming back from Europe, and late in the day, just tired as hell. And I shoot out a text to business associate John Smith, and we teach everybody never answer a question until you know why somebody's asking. And so he could have texted me back, what makes you ask? But instead he texted me back, seems like you have a reason for asking. And I remember if he'd have said, what makes you ask? I'd been like, answer the stupid question, don't interrogate me, just answer the freaking question. But he came back with a label, seems like you got a reason for asking it. And I hit like 4 straight reasons. I knocked them right out in text in quick succession. And I'm sitting there thinking like, yeah, it just labeling somebody to get them to talk is much insanely, exponentially more effective in getting somebody to talk. So we don't ask questions, and if, seems like you guys have been shopping around. Seems like you got something really specific in mind. Seems like you guys have got a vision on how this is going to work out. We'll start teasing out with people what they're up to, what their long-term plans are, by making verbal observations, labels, to get a feel for who they are and where they're going. Because they really want to know, who somebody is. Want to get a feel for. Do they joke around? Do they wear pirate costumes at their annual events? What do they do?
Yeah, and I don't know any weird people who would do that. I mean, might be a cry for help. I don't know. Sounds like you have some experience with that. No, I think what you're saying though is if you can get into that habit, asking somebody a question is, I feel like in a way it's almost like asking a favor, like because I'm asking you to give me information that you don't have to give me, and if you label it, people like you've often said, people like to correct you, right? Sounds like you're under a lot of pressure. Sounds like you're, like we were just talking about, we actually just pulled out, and I'll remind all the members who are listening here, we were pulling out your negotiation webinar you did. Do you remember back in 2020, we had you do a webinar for my clients? Because back in 2020, I don't know if people can remember back that far, but people were constantly, they were calling up our members, they were calling up us, trying to get out of contracts, trying to not pay, hey, it's really hard. Can you give me a discount? Can you let me out of my agreement? Can we, that sort of thing. And we brought you in to do that. We were just like re-listening to it because, when you're in a negotiation with a client who comes to you and doesn't want to pay or wants out of a contract or whatever, I remember that was one of the things. It sounds like you're under a lot of pressure. Sounds like you're up against the wall. Sounds like sounds like you hit some hard times. And hearing people out, and that's all labels, right?
Yeah. And people, and I'm sure the success rate was really high because part of what as I recall very clearly, what was going on at that time was like everybody was renegotiating, but not everybody needed to renegotiate. There were a lot of people out there that were just trying it because it was an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're making a shopping list and just going down the list and calling all their vendors saying, hey, I need a discount. Hey, I need to not pay you this month. And, a lot of people were unprepared. And so they're just going, okay, without even trying to negotiate out of that a little bit. So very, very cool. So one other thing I want to ask you about, because I have here, I was listening to one of your interviews. I can't remember who it was. I was out in the garden. I'm in the garden, I'm listening to you. So as I'm like, watering my plants and stuff. And
cool. Thank you.
What's that?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, it's great content. And the person who was interviewing you asked about win-win, and I know you don't like the term win-win, but it seems like whenever you're negotiating with somebody, it seems like you want the best outcome, and not just like in a selfish way, but I've heard you say before, even if we don't do a deal, even if I don't get what I want, or they don't get what they want, more importantly, right? If they don't get what they want, I want to preserve the relationship as much as I can so they'll come back and deal with us again. Now, see, to me, that feels win-win. So unpack that a little bit. Like, what do you mean? Why don't you like win-win? And talk about that.
Yeah, well, and probably in point of fact, definition, I certainly don't want anybody to actually lose or to feel like they lost in either instance, because in reality, that's how I'm built. I'm wired that way. I don't like people to feel bad. The mercenary side of me, it's bad for business to make people lose. I mean, it just is. There's a Goldman Sachs exec a long time ago said, greedy, yes, but long-term greedy. Like, you make people lose, you're going out of business. I mean, you're going to get a bad reputation. People are not going to want to deal with you. You're going to have to move every 6 months, and it's still going to catch up. And not everybody wants to do that.
Social media will get you, because people today now, they don't just get unhappy. They go on social media and post all their hate on social media.
Yeah. So, and if people prosper by doing business with you, then everybody wants to do business with you. So then that means they got to win. They got to be better off. Now, making somebody feel like they got a good deal when they didn't and they lost money, that's still bad for you, because they're going to go out of business, or they lost money, or they're not going to want to repeat, or the word's going to get out. So yeah, people need to actually win. Now the problem with the phrase is it gets used as a cliche to get people to drop their guard. And I just started seeing consistently, especially when I left the FBI, somebody calls on the phone, hey, got a win-win proposition for you. And I'd hear them out. And once we heard it out, there was like, there's no money here for us. Like, you may win, but we are not going to win. And I started seeing that over and over and over as a behavior from somebody who really wanted us to lose if they mentioned it right off the bat. And then I'd be in a company, and I can remember one in particular. I'm in the lunchroom, and one of the high-powered execs who's not in the training says, hey, I hear you badmouth win-win all the time. He says, why do you say that? And I go, well, our experience is somebody says win-win, they're going to ask for twice as much as they wanted to begin with. They're going to settle on where they always wanted to be. And it's a complete deception. And they're using that just to manipulate other people.
Mhm.
And this guy goes, yeah, I do that.
Do you think it's like they know they're doing that, so they're trying, it's like a nervous tick, it's almost like a defense mechanism, like, hey, I'm not trying to be a jerk. Like, you know how I know you always say, don't say, I'm not trying to be a jerk. I'm not trying to sound like I'm, yeah, I know this, well, not even because I'm getting trained by you so much. So it's like, if I'm going to say something that's going to be in like, don't hold this against me, but they use like, is that kind of how you mean it? Like they're saying, I got a win-win. It's almost like trying to defend themselves because they know what's coming is going to be good.
No, I think most of the people that do it intentionally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, there's a few things that people do that when they say it, it's bad news.
Mhm.
And they don't really realize it is. Like if somebody's got a great idea, like I got a great idea for you. That person has no idea how difficult it is to implement an idea. They think having a great idea is sufficient. So they're accidentally telling you, saying, I got this great idea. They don't know they're telling you that they're actually very naive. And then implementation, as Shark Tank sharks say, I think they all say a great idea might be worth $20. And that's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think, this ain't that. I think if somebody says win-win right up the bat, they have said it in the past and gotten people to really drop their guard, and they're doing it intentionally to get you drop your guard.
Yeah. 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 I don't use that phrase, but when I go into, I mean, now I have a different viewpoint, but before I met you, I think a lot of negotiations that I would go into, I kind of always wanted it to be like a win for everybody. In fact, like way before I met you, there was a program I created and I called it the triple win. And what it was about JV partnerships. So like for example, if one of my vendors, I don't know, like Citricom is a phone system vendor, and they have MSPs that we want as customers, that they could be a sponsor, and there's me. And the whole concept of the triple win is, how do I negotiate something or a deal or a project where it's a win for me, it's a win for them, and it's a win for their, and I call it the triple win. But then like after hearing you say, oh, I hate win-win, I was like, oh, I need to rename that or something.
Well, it's also kind of like, it's also pretty much the same thing as the counter for yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are a lot of people that they're going to give you yes and they know that they're lying. There are good people that are going to give you yes and they mean it. Now the behavior is exactly the same. There's some really bad people out there doing exactly the same behavior that some really good people do.
Yeah.
So, you got to put it in context, and you got to realize that this is a behavior, not exclusive to bad people, because some people do it,
Mm-hmm.
but the bad people do this an awful lot.
Mm-hmm.
And, and if you get stung by it enough, then you get an automatic aversion to somebody says win right away without actually listening long enough to find out whether or not they're trying to cut your throat or whether they just, they actually mean it. There are some people out there that actually mean it. It's just a problem. It's a behavior that the throat cutters engage in also.
Right, right. Did you ever read a book called Winning Through Intimidation?
I remember it way back when, and it may be in my library. Yeah, but I remember that guy, Robert Ringer or something. The turtle, his symbol was a turtle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It was funny. I should reread that book because it was interesting, because he said, I mean, the whole premise, it's kind of a negative premise, but I guess it's accurate in a sense. But his whole premise is everybody's out to get your chips. There's just three different people, right? The first guy knows he wants your chips. He's going to tell you he wants your chips. He's going to be completely obvious about that. He's going to show up saying, I'm coming after your chips, right? And then there's the second guy who says, no, I'm not after your chips. That's the win-win guy. Like, he's trying to come in as like, no, I want win-win. I'm not really after your chips. I want your friendship. I want your partnership. But he's really after your chips, and he knows he's after, and he's trying to con you. And the third guy is the guy who says he's not after your chips, but when the chips are down, he's going to take them. In other words, like he doesn't think he wants them, but when the opportunity presents itself, he's going to take your chips. And what's really funny is and I always remember this lesson from that book, is that he says the guy people don't like to deal with, but is the most honest, is the guy saying, I want your chips. You know what I mean? Like, because it's the guy who's coming to you, like, we talk about our friend Shark Tank, Kevin O'Leary, right? Kevin's very direct. And when you get him one-on-one, he's a lot gentler and he's way more of a pushover than he plays on TV, right? But he is still very direct, right? And so he'll just tell you the truth. And, he kind of does it mean on TV, but he always says, I'm the kindest shark here, because everyone else is going to be wishy-washy. He's like, I'm just going to tell you like it is, and maybe save you from spending second, third mortgage on your house and borrowing from your grandmother and like losing your family wealth. And and so and everybody's like, no, you're the bad guy, but it's kind of like what you're saying, I think, is that somebody who's direct, at least if they're direct and they're like, look, I want to, like, it's kind of like the accusation on it a little bit. It's like with you, it's like, hey, I'm a salesperson and I'm calling to sell you something, right? It's like almost like admitting that up front disarms people a little bit, because they're like, okay, wait a minute, why are you admitting that? At least you're being honest. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I like Kevin O'Leary a lot. I mean, you've had more contact with him than I did. We both spoke at the same conference a number of years ago, and he took a bunch of us out to dinner. I mean, he was generous dude. I thought he was very charming and he's very generous.
Yes, yeah.
And you like somebody that you know where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And dude is not going to kid you about where he's coming from. I also get the impression from the way he conducts himself in the negotiations and the way the other sharks kid him. But whenever they talk about the deals that he's done, I mean, the guy appears, and I'm taking it at face value, to take genuine pride in doing great deals with people and helping people be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a great characteristic.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's great. We're having him back again next year. We're doing you heard it first here. We're doing a little mini Shark Tank. We're bringing Robert and Damon and Kevin to do our boot camp. So
Very
like
good.
a mini Shark Tank thing. So that'll be cool. But no, he's great. So let me ask you this, because again, there's a lot of people that are listening. Again, my group comes to me because they want sales and marketing ideas. And one of the things I get hit up, LinkedIn's probably the worst, right? LinkedIn is like, I get at least 2 to 3 messages a week where somebody's messaging me and they go, hey, I want to talk about partnering with you. I think we have a great opportunity here to, and it's like you said, like the alarm, it's almost like the win-win, right? The alarm, the flag goes up, because I'm like, oh shit, here's what that means. You want me to introduce you and sell your stuff to all my clients for free. That's what you want, right?
Yeah.
And so I play along and get them back, because I was like, yeah, sure, that sounds great. What are you looking for? And then they're like, they tell me, and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what you need. This is excellent. I can absolutely help you get access. Let me connect you with Tanya Gentry. And Tanya is like my top salesperson. So it's like they get on the phone. I remember one guy, it was so funny. He was so clueless. He got all the way to the point where we're like, okay, this is what it's going to cost. And he was like, I remember him looking at us like he's like, wait a minute, I was supposed to be selling you. And all of a sudden he was in like a sales call or something. It was just kind of funny. But what would you, so if people are trying to reach out to do partnerships, like in the sense of there's somebody that has an audience or a group of clients that you want access to, right? And you want to do it in a way where you do provide value. Like, how would you coach somebody to approach somebody of influence to get them to start working with you and endorsing you in some way?
Yeah, well, you do 2 things. First of all, come up with a plan that actually takes into account the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
And then do something, start by being generous. Do them a favor first. Do something. It doesn't matter what it is, but anybody that does something nice for me first always gets my attention, because that's a great calling card.
Mm-hmm.
a secondary issue, and I'm a little shocked that more people don't really realize that this is the case, because if you dig into the any of the buyer behavior surveys, B2B and B2B decision making is no different than B2C. There is no data out there that says that human decision making changes based on circumstance. None.
Thank you for that. Yes.
Yeah, and
Said that
that's why
other
I've always
businesses
been
too.
comfortable
Yeah.
looking at the B2B surveys outlining decision making, because no, they say, well, that's not B2C. There's nothing that says that human decision making is any different. Now,
Well, because people don't, businesses don't buy things. People in the businesses buy things. Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
And everybody's thought pattern is pretty much the same. You start to gather information, and then you start asking questions, and then you start asking people you trust, and then you finally go to who you might buy it from. Like if I want to buy a cold plunge for my backyard,
Mhm.
the first person I dial up is not the salesperson. By the time I talk to the salesperson, my mind is pretty much made up.
Mhm.
What people make their decisions over is, do you know the landscape? Do you know the ground that has to we got to cross to get from point A to point B? Now, we love people who come up with plans, and a business person, if I'm, like I'm hiring a marketing person, I'm going to say, what's your marketing plan?
Mhm.
If you even think about planning, then you're a step ahead. But the plan has to have some awareness of the landscape that you got to cross. What are the pitfalls? I think, the SWOT analysis that they teach in all business schools, the idea is to make people aware of the landscape. But, when I went to business school, nobody actually said, well, just do strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, without and not even realizing that this is the battleground that we're going to have to cover in order to get this implemented.
Mhm.
If you come up with a plan of how you want to do something with somebody, like, the people that are trying to sell you, they got no plan. They just want you to do all the work because they haven't thought about planning.
Well, here's what they want from my experience. They want to get on the phone and say, well, here's what we do. And isn't it great? And when you want to bring this to your customers, and that, like, they haven't thought through what's in it for me. They haven't. Exactly. Right.
Or even how to get it to the customers.
Right. Right.
One of my favorite books, Ryan Holiday's book, Conspiracy. Peter Thiel hired a guy to go after Gawker, and it has been known, but nobody does it, called the briefcase interview. Like this guy understood, Mr. X understood that Thiel had it in for Gawker, and so he showed up with a plan of how to get him, and with no credentials. His first meeting with Thiel, but he came in with a plan. And I've seen it referred to as the briefcase interview. Show up with a plan.
Mhm.
And Thiel hired him on the spot because he's like, the plan's going to change. It's going to cost different than what you imagine. But the mere fact that you got a plan, I'll hire you right now. And so,
yeah, or if I give you my plan, it's kind of like what we started out with talking about earlier. Someone can say no to that. Right? If you show up and you don't have a clue and you don't have a plan and you don't have anything, you're wasting my time. If you show up at least with an idea, at least with a plan, I could say, no, that's not going to work. But then maybe we could start talking about, like, what about that doesn't work for you, and start to, have a dialogue at least. Right.
Yeah, somebody's at least thinking ahead,
Mm-hmm.
which, how hard is that? But nobody does it.
Yeah.
We get approached all the time. We had a company after us, want to work with us in Brazil, and do the training in Brazil. And it's a great idea. You're Black Swan method. First of all, I already know it works in every country because the book sells extremely well in every language on earth. So I know it works. And so we think it's a great idea to bring the Black Swan method to Brazil. And I'm like, okay, so what does it take to get people to buy training in Brazil? Well, it's a great idea to get people to bring your method, it's a great idea. We got a great product and no idea whatsoever as to how people buy in Brazil, or, clueless. He just thought we make it available and, you build a better mousetrap and they will come. And like, no, that ain't the case. And so I asked him several times, what does it in your environment? What are the indicators? How do people buy training? And never got an answer. So never pursued it ever.
Yeah.
No plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think so many people, they want something, they come, and I'll use that. Now I understand better, like what you mean by win-win. It's not, they're trying to use this, hey, I got a great idea, you can make a lot of money, blah, blah, blah. But then when you get into the how, they haven't thought it through, it doesn't work for me, etc. It just falls apart. So, yeah. So let me ask you, I know I want to watch the time. You've got a new book. Well, I mean, Derek actually has a new book out, right? It's where I ordered it and it was supposed to be here and I ordered it rush, right? I did not get it because I wanted to hold it up myself, because I feel like this book, just the title of it needs me, like is calling to me. Mike, don't say anything. I'm not even gonna look at Mike in the eye because it's Ego, Authority, and Failure.
I'm just muting. Yeah.
Right.
Mike bought me 5 copies. God bless him. So tell me, so Derek is he's one of your client coaches. He's brilliant. I mean, I've worked with him.
Yeah.
Amazing. He's an incredible human being, just a wealth of knowledge, just he's like a rock, he's just one of those people, that you just kind of like, you immediately like, and you just get right away, this dude knows what he's doing. He's just, he makes that kind of impression. At least he did on me when we engaged with them. Tell me about what this book is, give me a little synopsis.
Well, what he did was, and having been a police commander and been in a lot of leadership roles, he thought that, he knew the tactical empathy applied to leadership.
100%.
So he decided, like, I'm going to write a book on leadership based on tactical empathy. Did a bunch of interviews with a lot of leaders. Actually, wrote the book twice. It's now in its second edition, and he made some changes, some additions to it. And a lot of people, I mean, I've had some people say that it's a great supplement to a business negotiation book anyway, like the whole accusations audit thing, which some people have trouble wrapping their minds around. I've had people say, when I read it in Derek's book, it finally made sense to me. Mm-hmm. So it's another great communication book, principally designed for leadership. And it's a great supplement to understanding tactical empathy and the negotiation skills in a different context, which helps you learn them even more in depth.
So this is more of what you teach in communication, tactical empathy, negotiations, but from the standpoint of somebody who would be running a company, leading a team. Is that right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay. And so what do you think is just, I mean, I have not read the book. I mean, like I have it, like I literally, I was looking, I ordered it. I was like, shit, I haven't gotten it yet. It's like, it's selling, must be selling fast. Cause like I went to order it. It was like 12 copies left. That was it, And so it must be a good seller. And so like, what do you think are the biggest takeaways when people are reading this? What's the big aha that, like, where do you think leaders kind of screw up the most and what they can get out of this book?
Well, I think it's because, like, people should do what you say because you're in charge.
You mean like the boss lady thing? That's not enough to make people. And by the way, my kids gave me that. So I just want to make sure everyone knows that was not an ego. That was my child gave me that. So it was a Mother's Day.
Yeah. It's just like it's because Derek's principle, when he sees people run into trouble in leadership, it's first because they think they are in a leadership position, therefore the people that work for them should do what they say, or because they've thought it through, or their ego has gotten in the way. That the two principal shortcomings are positions of authority, or I own a company, damn it. I'm your boss, damn it. Yeah. It's my money at the end of the day, damn it.
Yeah.
That although these things are true, they are also not indicators of effective leadership, of getting people to knock themselves out for you, to to have the job satisfaction you need, so that if you got an 11 p.m. call, that somebody from your team is jumping on without being unhappy about jumping on that call. They job satisfaction, so they don't burn out, so that they care about what happens, comes from, finding other ways, empathy. Empathy is a great description I was just given 2 days ago from a guy that we're going to bring on as a coach. That empathy is head to heart. In your head, you can see what's in their heart. It's not heart to heart, where you share the emotions, you share sympathy, you feel bad for them. That's heart to heart. And there ain't nothing wrong with heart to heart. But head to heart, seeing what really matters to them, and then using that to navigate appropriately.
Yeah. I need to, we should, does he, he speaks, right? I know he was at the, no, was he at the 2-day training we did? I'm trying to remember.
No,
I don't
just
think
Brandon.
it was.
But he was doing the follow-up calls. That's where.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. Because Brandon was there, right? Exactly. We should bring him in to speak to our audience, because they're all entrepreneurs. They're all running small businesses. And I think right now there's a talent shortage, right? I'm gonna say shortage, but everybody's competing for top talent, right? And so I think being able to attract those top talent to you, lead them to get the most out of them, that's a huge competitive advantage.
Amen. Yeah. Derek, you guys will love having Derek come in. He's solid. He's very funny. He doesn't strike you as a guy who would be very funny, and then he starts saying funny stuff, and it really catches you off guard.
Oh yeah, I'll make a commitment to you. We will bring him in to speak, and I'll get a copy of this book for every one of my members, because at the Producers Club, because everything that you guys produce, guys, I'm telling you, if you're watching this, everything that you produce is top notch. It's just, I don't even have to I'm just asking you questions. I didn't have to guess, is it good? Or I know it's going to be good. I just know I'm going to get something, not just get sometimes you read a book, you get one thing. I think your book is something that you study. You know what I mean? That it's something that you go through again and again and again and again. And every time it's just that practicing that tactical empathy, the listening skills, the being able to ask questions, and just, I'm not even ask questions, but get information in a way that is very elegant. I think that's just so cool. And of course, that's what leadership is, so I think that's amazing. So where do they go to get we can put this in the little chat, but where would you like them to go to get a book? Would it be your website, Amazon?
Probably Amazon. Amazon's got to be the best move.
Okay. So go to Amazon. When did this book come out? Did this just the second version you said?
Yeah, the second version was earlier this year.
Okay, cool. All right. So make sure we get that. So Chris, I want to be aware of the time. Just one last really important question. If you were going to be a Muppet, which Muppet would you?
Animal, the one who plays the drums, right? Is in that, what is that?
Yeah.
It's some insurance company commercial where animals up in an attic playing drums. I'd be Animal.
I like it that he just had an answer ready.
Yeah, you didn't even have to think about it, right? Yeah. So is he your favorite Muppet, or is that just the one you identify with the most?
I suppose I identify both. I identify with the most. Yeah.
I don't even know the answer to that question for me. I don't know. I have to think about it. I think I'm one of those grumpy old guys that sits up in the, I don't even know their names. That sits up there and looks down at everything. It's I think that's kind of more my speed. I'm definitely not a Miss Piggy, but I guess I could. I don't know. I just don't. That's just not me. But I don't know, Mike. I never asked you that, Mike. What Muppet would you?
The Muppets. I don't have an answer at the ready. I'm not a Muppet fan club person like that. I guess it'd be the grumpy people. Just not that I'm grumpy, just because I like to make jokes and make fun. So I guess that would kind of be it. But we got people in chat saying we love Brandon. Adam Pittman was shout out on there. And if I could ask one real quick question, just because, so Chris, I lead a lot of the marketing managers that work for the companies, and a bunch of them are the sons or daughters of the owners. Now, obviously, you work with your son. I think he's the president of
Yeah.
Black Swan.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
He comes, he speaks. He's like, as you said, he's kind of a clone of you. Just wondered if you had any advice to owners and family members who are working together.
That's a good
Wow.
question.
Other than give each other a lot of space, it's just, the parents, the dads, you're gonna feel like you can call these people up at any time of the day or night, weekends. I mean, yeah, it's a bad idea. And, there's going to be tension, but as long as, you carve out space, family time, and where you don't talk about business, then preserve the family relationship. It's more important than the business relationship. The downside, for both sides is like the level of trust that you have in a family member is 10x the amount of trust that you have in anybody else. And that is wonderful. And, not over exploiting that trust is the hard part, because it just 10x trust factor with family members, which is a wonderful thing.
So how does Brandon deal with you then? Like how does he, because he's really good, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So when he's negotiating, do you know what he's doing? I mean, you must spot it, but that's got to be hard.
Yeah, well, but it's always, we're about great collaboration with both sides. So, and everybody in my team, we all use tactical empathy. We ask each other no-oriented questions. We got to deliver this bad news. Like, you're not going to like this. It's going to make you upset. We definitely apply it all the time, because, we're about great collaboration, long-term relationships.
Yeah. No, you guys work great together. I mean, when you came in to do the training, it's obviously, a very respectful, everybody brings something a little bit different, and just together, it's just amazing. So, all right. So if somebody wanted to learn more about Black Swan, because you guys do events, right? So I would highly encourage anybody who's not been to one of his events, go to a workshop. Get the book at a minimum, but the book is great, but go to a workshop, because when you're in that environment, I mean, you do role play, it's very interactive, you just get so much out of it. So where would they go to get more information on that?
Well, the best thing is to subscribe to our blog/newsletter. Comes out every Tuesday, because then the announcements about the live in-person events or some new training will be contained in that. But then the newsletter is actionable, concise negotiation advice that comes out once a week on Tuesday morning. Mm-hmm. And inside the domestic US, the best way to subscribe is to text the sign up function. The number you text to is 33-777-33777. The message you send to that number is Black Swan Method, 3 words, lowercase, space between the words, Black Swan Method. And now you'll send that text, you get a text back response asking for your email, sign up. And the newsletter is a gateway to everything.
Okay. So you're going to text to 33777, and you're going to put Black Swan Group, 3 separate words.
Black Swan Method.
Oh, I'm
Black
sorry.
Swan Method.
Black Swan Method. See, I'm drinking. This is where I got to rely on you a little bit. So Black Swan Method, lowercase, space between the words. What happens if what would happen? I'm going to text Black Swan Group. What would happen? Is it signing up for like the Russians going to come get me, as we talked about? Is that what's going to happen there?
I don't know. Maybe you get a porn site link back. I don't know.
I'm trying it.
Trying it, right? Awesome. All right. Well, Chris, this has been fantastic. I appreciate you so much. Like I said, guys, I can't endorse everything they do. Go to their courses, hire them for consulting. I'm very excited about Derek and this new book. Bring him in, have him speak to my group. We should definitely do that, because I think that tactical empathy it's critical for leaders to know how to do that with, to run a really productive team. Like I said, Mike's already bought me 3 copies, so that's a hint. I need more work in that area. Actually, Mike's really great. Mike's easy. See, if all my staff were like Mike, I could drink all day. I wouldn't have to work at all, but they're,
Be a good life, huh? Be like Mike.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate you, Karen, and of course you,
Thanks,
Mr.
Chris.
Voss. Amazing. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Guys. All right. Bye now.